Have you ever wondered, am I 100% sure that God exists? Can anyone be 100% sure that God exists? Welcome to AJ Sports with Ezekarel, an apologetics podcast where you grow in the right knowledge, build solid convictions, and be equipped to effectively defend the truths of your faith as a believer. AJ Sports stands for Apologetics for Jesus podcast. We look at different topics from various perspectives, including the Bible's perspective. Remember, it's not just about gaining knowledge, but how you effectively practice the knowledge that you have gained as you go out there to share your faith with others. It's time to get equipped. Have you ever wondered, am I 100% sure that God exists? Can anyone be 100% sure that God exists? There are different groups of people who give various answers to this kind of question. There are the theists that will tell you, yes, God exists. But under these theists, there are different groups of people. There are the monotheists that believe that there is one and one God alone. And the people that are monotheists fall into religions like Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. On the other hand, there are polytheists that believe in multiple gods. So it can be that 2, 3, 5, 10, 100, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or like in Hinduism that believe that there are close to 3 million gods. Also, there are pantheists. They believe that the universe is God, God is the universe, everything in the universe is God, God is everything in the universe. That's what the pantheists believe. And then there are the deists. Now, these are people who also kind of believe that God exists. There's a God somewhere out there, but probably created everything that exists, or created some of the things that exist, or just created the framework of the universe and left every other thing to chance, like left everything to the Big Bang, left everything to evolution. Is not really involved in the day-to-day running of the universe. It's not, in fact, it does not interact with anything that exists naturally. Now there is the atheist that will tell you, see, there is no God. God does not exist. Some will go as far as telling you they are 100% sure. They are very sure that God does not exist at all. And then there are the agnostics that will tell you, basically we don't know. You see, we can't really know. There are the epistemological agnostics that will tell you, oh, we can never know anything about God. It's simply not possible. You see, we can't really know anything more than the natural world, right? And then there are the empirical agnostics that will say, well, we don't know enough. And if we get enough evidence, maybe we would know that there is a God. But let's go back and look at some questions like, does God exist? And there are different arguments proving that definitely God exists. One of them is the cosmological arguments. We have looked at the cosmological arguments when we did one of the topics on the case for intelligent design here on AJ Sports with Ezekarel. So you can check that episode if you have not listened to it. But I'll just give a brief overview of it again. The cosmological argument says that whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. And then it's believed that whatever caused the universe to exist is timeless, spaceless, immaterial, enormously powerful, and also have a mind of its own to be able to cause the universe to exist. And this is what many people consider as God, whatever that cause is. Then the other arguments, like the teleological argument, which is the design arguments, that when you observe the universe from galaxies to stars to planets, and even down here on our planet Earth, you look at animals, human beings, you see design, you see apparent design, you see order, you see purpose. And because of this, if you see something like this naturally, you assume that someone is behind it, a being is behind it. And a being that put the universe together, that designed, created the universe, has to be God. Then there's the moral argument that talks about how human beings, the peak of creation, have some form of knowledge on fairness, justice, knowledge on right and wrong, good and bad. And humans did not just gain this knowledge or ability through the process of evolution. Instead, it was inbuilt, created with man by the creator, who is also known as the moral lawgiver, who is most likely God. And there's another argument, which is the ontological argument. It's known as the argument from greatness, that if we are trying to find out, okay, who is the greatest person in the world? Oh, maybe it's the president of a nation, but who is greater than the president? I mean, the greatest supreme power being in the world. Well, we'll say God. I mean, something that is greater than the earth, that put the earth in place, that is greater than the universe, that put the universe in place. If you say God, say, okay, yes, but who is greater than God? Whatever you think, if you keep on saying, okay, God, but there's something greater than God, then that thing would be God. If you keep going on, whatever, the greatest, most supreme being in the entire universe is God. Another one is the metaphysical argument, meaning we know that life is not necessarily limited to the physical environment. There is the metaphysical part, that talks about love, emotions, numbers, things that are not necessarily physical in nature. There's also the spiritual realm, right? And whoever puts all of these realms, the supernatural realm, the metaphysical aspect of life, whoever put all of these things together, the supernatural being is most likely God. I should also add this argument, the religious argument. This is the argument that God somehow has revealed himself to humans and then called them to serve him. But the issue with this argument is that there are different religions in this world, and many of them all claim different things about their God, still saying that these things were revealed to them by this God. And so in the next episode, we're even going to examine the question, is there one God? Are we all serving the same God? But for now, let's look at the question, how can we know God? Does God really want to be known? Is he unknowable, mysterious, or has he somehow revealed himself through the things that exist? And I believe that it is possible that we can know God. Well, one of it is through nature. For instance, based on the cosmological argument, the cosmological argument that tells us whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. Now we know that the universe is all of time, space, and matter. And whatever caused time, space, and matter to exist has to be timeless, spaceless, immaterial. And we know that it requires great power to create the universe. Therefore, God has to be enormously powerful. Another thing is that when we observe creation, all that exists in the natural world, we can see design, we can see purpose, we can see order, and we just have this idea that whoever, this God, has some form of intention or purpose for why he created the world, even if we might not know it yet. Or when you look at living species like animals or human beings, you observe some form of interactions between them. You see some actions of love, you see some actions of caring, protection. You just have this idea that whoever created this living species, these beings to be like this, most likely have some of these characteristics and nature. And we'll be looking at that later on this podcast when we look at the different characters and nature of God. Also, again, you can know through various religious texts. I've refrained from just saying the Bible because the truth is that there are various religious texts that all claim different things about their God, revealing different things about God. And I won't just throw them away. We are going to examine them. Are all of these things true? Are there any contradictions? Are there any alignments? Which one can we accept, or are all of them true? We are going to be looking at that even in the next episode as well. And then also, if God reveals himself, if God comes directly, maybe through some form of supernatural means, appears in the sky and commands everyone, look up right now. I am God speaking to you from above. I've come to manifest myself unto you that you might know that I am God. Somehow God does that, or God decides to become a human being like the Christians believe, and then we can have some idea about God's true nature because now he's like humans. We can tell, okay, well, this person that claims to be God behaved like this, lived like this. If he's truly God, then God must have this character, God must have this nature, and we can know more about God. But we'll look more into that as we proceed on these podcasts. Another question we can ask ourselves is, what is God like? And I've already answered some of those questions in answering how can we know God. We know that God that created time, space, and matter is timeless, spaceless, is immaterial, meaning it's not bound to the natural things that we can see, feel, because there has to be another realm or dimension that goes beyond the natural one that was created by the being. We also have the idea that it's enormously powerful because the power that is required to create this universe is unmatchable. We also have the idea that he has to be all-knowing, meaning we understand that the universe is finely tuned for life. The amount of knowledge required to process and ensure that fine-tuning happens to the universe, it's a lot. Also, if the being that created the universe is timeless, spaceless, it doesn't dwell within our time, which means it's also in the future, it's in the past, it's in the present, and it knows everything, right? Since it's immaterial, we also have this idea that it can be everywhere and it can be in anywhere. So it's not bound to a physical location as well. Another thing is that some people believe that God can be a force. They don't believe in God as a supernatural being, right? They just believe a force, like an energy. Let's put it that way. Something like wind, magnetic, electricity, and all of those things. They believe that maybe that's God. But the thing is that we can definitely tell that God is a being. And I've given the argument when we looked at the case for intelligent design, again, the cosmological argument. Because the cosmological argument tells us that whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. We also believe, when we looked at the case for intelligent design and the Big Bang Theory, right, we looked at some of the argument that talked about the universe did not eternally exist in the past. It had a beginning. And if God is eternal, the cause of the universe is eternal. But the effect, which is the universe coming into existence, is not eternal because the universe is not eternal in the past. This means that there was a period where the cause was in existence while the effect wasn't in existence. We know that every cause must have an effect. So if God is just energy, a force field, it means that immediately the force field and energy came into existence, the effect, which is the universe, must also come into existence. But we know that God did not come into existence because he has always been in existence. That would also imply that the universe never came into existence because the universe has always been in existence, with God, the force field that brought the universe into existence. But I hope this is not complex. So we already know that the universe came into existence at a particular time. It has a beginning. It has not always existed eternally in the past. So we are therefore sure that God was not a force field. It's not just a force, not just an energy. Now, how can I be sure that God has a mind or is a person? It is because the cause of the universe decided at a particular moment to bring into effect the existence of the universe. So if the cause of the universe made a decision and took an action, it means there was a mind behind the cause of the universe. Also, what we know about the fine-tuning of the universe also reveals that there has to be a mind behind the universe. What do I mean? Fine-tuning requires a lot of thought, analysis, and processes. An energy or a force field cannot do that on its own. There has to be a mind behind the fine-tuning of the universe. Whenever you observe something finely tuned, designed, ordered, there has to be a mind behind that fine-tuning, capable of understanding the processes, making analyses, and ensuring that everything is finely tuned for the continuous existence of the universe. And since in our natural world, we know that it is human beings that have a mind of their own, they are able to make free wills, take decisions, carry out actions, we can therefore conclude that God is a being. And because God is not limited to our natural world, we can claim that God is a supernatural being. Now, another question we should ask is, what does this mean for us? If there is a God, how does this impact our life? The truth is, based on our understanding of God, it's going to influence how we live our life, how we understand who we are, that is our identity, how we understand the meaning. Do we really see meaning to life? Do we see purpose? If we observe design, we observe purpose in the universe. Do we as individuals have purpose to why we are here? If every human has some sense of fairness, morality, but it wavers, different people have different ideas about what they consider to be good, what they consider to be right, what they consider to be wrong, what they consider to be fair and just. What about this supreme being? Is there a standard for morality? And at the end of the day, well, we know that they are living beings, human beings that have lived and have gone. Where did they go to? Did they go back to God or did they go to a separate place? What happens when I live here? And that is why we are carefully looking at God as the origin of the universe, because that would influence our understanding on our identity, meaning of life, the morality we live by or everyone should live by, and the destiny where we are going to when we live here. But you see this thing, not everyone is interested in knowing God. And there are different reasons for this. It can be intellectual reasons. There are agnostics and atheists who will tell you, well, we can't know, or we know for sure that there is no God. And they are ready to give intellectual arguments, proofs for why everything can be in existence without God. There are emotional reasons as well why people are not interested in knowing God. Those that have experienced pain and suffering, and then you are telling them there's a God, is enormously powerful, is all-knowing, and they can't just manage the fact that, okay, how can there be a God? Is all-knowing, is all-powerful, is loving, but then there is suffering and pain in this world. And then there is those that are just volitional. They are not interested. They are more interested in other aspects of life. Well, I just need to party. After all, you only get one life to live. So live it. Let me decide whatever I want to do with my life. I don't want God. If I want God, well, God comes with rules. I don't want anything to do with this God. Let me just be on my own. After all, well, I don't even know this God, so I'm not interested in him. And then there are religious reasons as well. Some people will tell you, well, see, based on my religion, this is what we believe about God. So I'm not interested in talking about God with anyone. I already believe the truth. So whatever you're coming to tell me, well, I don't believe in that. You can hold it to yourself. Or some will tell you, well, you see, I just go to my center of worship. Anything my religious leader tells me about God, that is what I believe. So I'm not interested in anything you have to say. I don't even know how to search and discover God for myself. But I want to urge you, whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, whether you don't believe in God at all, continue going along with me on this podcast and we will truly discover whether there is God. We already know definitely there is a God, but we would look and carefully understand who is this God. I know this podcast is AJ Sports with Ezekiel. The AJ stands for Apologetics for Jesus. I could have gone the Christian way and tell you, oh, there is God, quoted scriptures and the Bible, but no, I'm not doing that. I want everyone to come along on this journey and discover the truth for themselves. When we begin to look at whether all religions are serving God, we are going to look at some of the claims from different religions and what they say about God. Can they all align or do they not align? Are we serving the same God or we are not serving the same God? Are people just confused and mixed up? We're going to look at that. But also when we begin to look at the character and nature of God, we are going to look at some of these popular religions. For instance, what does the Bible say about God being love? What does the Torah and the Tanakh say about God being love? What does the Quran say about God being love? What do the Buddhists, the Hinduists, what do they believe in their book or in their own point of view? Is God love? We are going to examine this. And at the end of the day, I'm hoping that I'll be able to convince you beyond reasonable doubt that the pathway to God is through Jesus. Because that's what AJ Sports is all about. That's where we are going to be ending in destiny. The pathway to God. So continue along with me on this journey here on AJ Sports with Ezekiel. Thanks so much for listening to the end of this episode. Depending on the platform you're listening on, you can give this episode a like, you can comment, you can reach out to me on social media, whether it's on Instagram or TikTok at Ezekiel. The Ezekiel is spelled Ezekarel. If you have my direct contacts in terms of email address or phone number, you can reach out to me directly. Let's talk. You can go back and listen to all the previous episodes that you might have missed here on AJ Sports with Ezekiel. Remember, we are following a series of topics and we are building on what we have covered in previous episodes. Like the beginning that I talked about, the cosmological argument, I just gave a quick overview, but it was much more detailed when we looked at it in the case for intelligent design. Also, remember to share this episode and all the previous episodes with your friends, with your family, on your social media status, with those who you know are truly actually seeking to know God. Also, don't forget you should apply all that you're learning here on AJ Sports with Ezekiel. Go out there, share your faith with others, and when it's time to give a defense for what you believe, you can apply some of the things that you're learning here on AJ Sports with Ezekiel. Thank you very much for listening once again. I would see you in the next episode.